Fantastic. So we're 2 minutes after the hour and we've got a packed agenda today. So absolutely delighted to have all of you on the line for the launch of the Playbook. For folks who don't know, my name's Jen Goldsack. I'm the Executive Director of the Digital Medicine Society, or DiMe. And for folks who may not know DiMe is a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to advancing the safe, effective, ethical, and equitable use of digital technologies in the service of improved lives. What folks may also not know is that we are still a very young organization. We are still not quite 2 years old. And the kind of work that we are going to share with you today, work that was generated from a pressing need out in our sort of expert community, one where we were able to work aggressively and in a very focused manner with extraordinary experts from around the globe leaning into the project, helping us identify and understand what the most pressing needs were for the community. And then today, the ability to communicate that to the field and hopefully get us to a point where we are together further advanced towards being able to use digital clinical measures to really reimagine how we define health and disease and really reimagine how we're able to care for the patients and the people that we're all on the line to serve. So with that, let me tell you a little bit about the history of the Playbook. The Playbook was first launched in September of 2020 to incredible success. It was a smaller group that worked on this initial Playbook, yet it was still an ambitious project. We launched 407 slides to really try and orient you, take you by the hand and walk you through everything that needs to happen to advance the safe, effective, ethical, and equitable use of digital clinical measures. In the first 24 hours after launch, it was accessed over 700 times. And by the end of 2020, it was downloaded over 10,000 times. There's no doubt that the Playbook that we launched last year has already been incredibly impactful. And I'm also incredibly proud to say that it was actually the field that came to us and said, this is absolutely terrific. How can we make this more accessible? How can we make this even more relevant to individuals coming to this resource to use it? How can we keep this resource evergreen as the science and the technology moves so quickly? And that was really the impetus. It was the community that drove us to come together and launch this next tour of duty that we're sharing with you today, the Playbook Driving Adoption. And I want to pause for a second and recognize both the organizations and the experts that came to the table to create over 100 new resources for you to, or to support you in advancing the field. It's not lost on anyone what we've all endured over the last year or so. This has been the greatest public health crisis of our lifetimes, I hope. I hope we don't see anything worse than this. Every single person on this line works in the field and thus has been under the most extraordinary pressure to deliver during the pandemic. At the same time, even out of our professional lives, folks have faced incredible challenges, hardship, and in some cases, heartbreak. And yet these organizations under all of this pressure recognize the importance of generating shared resources, recognize the importance of shoring up the use of evidence-based digital health technologies, and so came to the table under this pressure to engage in this, I think, absolutely extraordinary pre-competitive collaboration. And I want to thank not only the organizations who lent into this and were willing to support us in doing this, but perhaps most importantly, the 44 experts from around the world today who will in fact be in charge of walking you through all of the resources in the Playbook today. I do want to take a beat and thank them. None of the work we do at DiMe, nothing we did with the Playbook would be possible, would be of the quality that we're able to share with you today if it wasn't for experts in the field like this who, you know, as we just discussed, came through a tumultuous year and we're still showing up for several hours every single week to create what we will unveil to you today. So I do want to take a pause and say thank you and congratulations to every single person who participated in this tour. I feel really strongly that what you have created will move the field. I look forward to championing you. I look forward to championing the resources, making sure they get into the hands of the people who need them, and continuing to be a good steward of these resources going forward. So let's pause for a second. There's a little video here of all of the of how we've laid out the website for you today. If you haven't yet accessed the reimagined Playbook website with 100 new resources for you, Jean is going to drop that link into the chat so you can go and take a look and you can follow along live as we conduct the session today. I also think it's really important to orient you to this session. We have so many resources to share. We wanted to make sure we did it in a dynamic way, that we didn't do didactic presentations to you, but rather we wanted to bring the expertise and the, oh, that's going to play. Well, that's fine. That can play for a second. We wanted to bring the expertise and we wanted to bring the knowledge of the 44 experts who created all of these materials. We wanted to allow them to give voice to why it was important to select the resources we did. We wanted to allow them to give voice to the use cases that drove the creation of the tools, of the policy maps, of the decision tools, of the micro playbooks, to make everything we created and launched in September more relevant and more accessible. I also want to thank this community because they also updated all of these materials with the most recent science. We were able to capture more FDA guidance in this version. We were able to look more keenly and be more inclusive of our European colleagues, including new European regulations. We were able to include best practices from the US Digital Service, the most recent science from leading journals around the world. It's not only that there are more resources available to you, it's not only that these things are more accessible and more relevant. This is also absolutely the latest science for us to work together to create this evidence-based field. A quick look to orient you for the day before we welcome our fantastic guest to join us today. What have we created and how are we going to use your time today? We talked about the need to make the playbook more accessible and more relevant, and we'll talk about how we've done that at the playbook level. We've also created these new resources, and we did it by identifying key archetypes that needed the information served up to them, served up to you in a particular way. So as we go through today, you'll see that we'll be starting with our clinical colleagues. It's really important as we advance digital health and digital medicine. This is not happening in the absence of patients, and it's not happening in the absence of our clinical colleagues. So we'll be starting with them. Next, we'll be thinking about the needs of the pharma executives, a subset of decision makers that we need to support this work in order to advance the field. We'll be moving through some checklists and some expertise from our measurement colleagues. Measurement has to come first. This is not about the shiny objects. We are tech enthusiasts. We are not tech determinists. We have to start with the patients, the clinicians, and we have to measure what matters. Moving through to how the heck do I actually implement this in my trial? In one of the most heavily regulated, and rightly so, industries in the world, in one of the most conservative industries in the world, how can we actually get to a point where these technologies that scientifically and technically are ready for prime time today can be operationally successful in your trial? We don't want to forget our academic colleagues and the absolute critical role they play in ensuring that digital clinical measures advance as a trustworthy field. And finally, let's zoom out. Let's think about what the policy roadmap might be to shore up the infrastructure, to shore up the pathways and the support needed to get us to the future state where these digital clinical measures are fully integrated into healthcare, making public health, making equitable health, making personalized health much easier to deliver.